Hello, you're here with Miss Libby Rose. So today we're going to look at making the cat. So it's got its arms and legs, so it's a kind of person cat with a heart, face, whiskers and buttons for eyes and a nose. If you download the template, so you've got the pattern, and what you have is two halves. So you just stick the two pieces, so you print it out on A4 to stick the two pieces together, and you'll have a shape that looks like this. And you'll see there's the fold line. So you will cut two pieces on the fold and just use the fat quarters, which are just, there's so many lovely fat quarters. If you choose, you could choose the same for front and back, or like I've done, I've got the stripy fat quarter pack, and I've done a pink for the front and a purple for the back. Now you won't need the whole fat quarter to cut these, so if you shuffle up the fold right to the edge, then you'll have enough space to use extra bits. And what we've got is a heart. So if you see on the pattern, I've got the shape of the heart. If you cut out the heart shape, and that will be used on the face. Other things you will need is some ribbons for whiskers, so some nice fine ribbon for whiskers, and buttons for eyes and buttons for a nose. But of course you don't have to use buttons, you could just be as creative as you like and what you'd like to use for that. So we've got eyes, nose, whiskers, the front and the back cut out. And what else we use is, you can use, there's Heat and Bond or Bondaweb. Both are brilliant to use. So there's Bondaweb that also comes in a pack, but I just have it on the roll. Or you have these Heat and Bond. Now cut out your heart, and then also cut out a piece from either the Bondaweb or the Heat and Bond. So cutting out the shape. Then you put the paper on the back with the rough side, the sticky-ish side, or the webby side, facing the fabric on the back, and iron that on. But keep the paper bit on there, and we'll peel that paper off just before we're about to use it. So now I've got my heart with my Bondaweb or Heat and Bond backing, and then these shapes. The only other thing that you will need is something to stuff it with. Now, if you want, some people just for recycling's sake, they'll gather up all the holy socks in the house, or all just any like old jumpers or something that aren't usable anymore, and use that as stuffing. So if you want to be very eco-friendly and reuse fabrics and things from home, you can. Or actually bundle up all your fabric scraps, you could use that as your stuffing. Or you can use like toy stuffing. So there's polyfill stuffing that you could use, and it's a toy filling. Sometimes what I also use with my stuffing is just to make it smell nice, is to add a little bit of herb, or like some lavender herb or rose, or you could just drop in some essential oils of your choice, and that makes the stuffing smell nice. So that's up to you if you'd like it to smell nice like that. So now we'll get our first bit, will be get the front and your heart, your face. Get that in position. Once you're happy, peel off the back, making sure that it's still got its bit of sticky stuck on there. Where are we? So it's still holding on to the webbing bit. So it just looks a little bit shiny on the back. So we peel that off. We don't need the paper anymore, but you might want to keep hold of it, because then you could use that as a template for something else later. And then simply iron on in position into the front. So that's the first bit that we're doing. So drop them on the floor. So we iron it in place. once you've got that nicely ironed in place, then you can attach your whiskers. So I'm going to put my whiskers into place. So I get 3 on one side, so I go to the middle of the heart, getting 3 on one side, get those right into place, and then do a stitch just to the edge so that you're leaving a bit of flap from the edge as well. So get those in place, pop a pin in, and then stitch them in position. So if you see what I have done here, I've just stitched the whiskers up to the edge of the heart so that these will still flap out a bit, because I just think that's quite nice. You can trim those off a bit as well, but I just like it how it flaps. That makes it more realistic. So we've got the 3 whiskers in place now. And you can choose, if you would like to, you could do a little decorative stitch or zigzag around your heart now if you'd like to. Now this will stay in place with the heat and bond or the Bondaweb. And generally we stitch around the edge when it's something that's going to get washed off and if it will start to peel off at some point. So it's not compulsory to stitch around the edge of your heart at the moment, but it might be nice. And you can be sure it stays on then as well. But because we're putting eyes on, we've already stitched on whiskers and we're going to put a nose on there. So it might hold it in place just as nicely because we're doing our stitching on. So the next thing that you will do is to attach the nose in the middle of the whiskers there. So we put a little nose in the middle of the whiskers, and then we've got our eyes on either side here of the heart. So get those in place, just hand stitch them on. And once they're in place, then we're ready to start putting the whole construction together. So now we've got our eyes and nose in place. We then simply pop the right sides facing each other. So I've got my back and my front, and I'll line all of that up. So I line my ears up and my arms and tummy and legs. So if you go along now and line all of these up together and pop some pins in. And the only one thing that we will need to remember is to leave a gap. So we're going to leave a gap where we are going to turn it through. So to turn it through the right way, plus the spot where we're going to add the stuffing. So generally, I tend to leave it down the bottom here. So in the bottom of the leg bit, and then give that a little hand stitch at the end. So you can choose to do that there. If you would prefer for your bit to be left, for your hole to be left somewhere else, maybe you're thinking, I might want to add a hat on later or something. I might want to accessorize it. So you could leave your hole in the head part. Or you might want to put a little dress on it or something, so you could leave it in the tummy part. So it's totally up to you where you leave the hole, but just for now we can just leave it in the bottom. So if we can, so just between the legs here, just at the bottom part. So if you take your tailor's chalk and make a little marking there so that you will remind yourself not to stitch. So aside from that, you're just going to go all the way around and stitch close to the edge as you can without going too close. So you want to leave almost a full foot. If you can come in, if there's a little marking on your foot here, you could come a little bit further in. So you're just leaving yourself a small seam allowance the whole way around. So you're stitching around, and as you go, when you get to a tricky part, you just pop your needle in and lift and turn yourself around. So as you're going, say you get to the bottom of the leg, you just stop when you get close to the edge, turn your needle towards you, needle in, lift up the presser foot, and away you go. Carry on the whole way around the cat, making sure that you leave your gap. Once you've finished stitching the whole way around, before you go to your hole and turn it through, go to any of the curvy parts and cut yourself notches. Now these could be little triangles like this, or just a little cut. This helps the fabric to expand itself, to get around the curves and not pull on the fabric. Also, cut your ears slightly at the top. All of this is up to the stitching line. Don't cut your stitching line because that will lose your stitches. Then you'll have to go back again and sew it all up. So I'm going to go through, notch any part that's a bit curvy or is on a corner, and also the tops of the ears. Just take off the bulk off the top of the ears. Nice little notches all the way around the tummy and under the arm section. And also actually at the bottom of the legs as well. So right up the bottom of the leg part, take that bit of excess off there. You're happy, you've done all your notches. Go to your hole wherever you've left it, if you've left it in this part, and turn it all through. Pop your iron on so you can iron it nice and flat. Pulling out all the way, legs, arms. Are all out. Now it should give you a nice little curve around tummy, around the head and things, with the help of the notches. We're going, and if you push all of those sharp bits out, press it nice and flat, and then we're ready to add the stuffing. So now we have it all nicely turned through and pressed. So we are up to the point of adding our stuffing. As I said earlier, you could add some herbs. So some lavender, or I've got rose and I've got lavender herbs here. Or you could just sprinkle some essential oil in, or not at all. You don't have to at all. If you had problems turning your cat through, trying to get all your nice sharp points and making sure that you had left all your notches and trimmed off any bits of edges, so cut off the edges. What you can also use, and what I find is quite good, is a chopstick, or maybe a pen, the end of a pen, but anything with a blunt edge. You don't really want to get a pair of scissors up there because you could easily tear the edges. So if you're finding it hard to turn everything through, chopsticks are the best. That's what I just tend to use when we were making stag heads at Christmas time, especially trying to get all the antlers up. The chopsticks were just amazing. So they're a great addition to have. Knitting needles, okay, but they do still have the point bit at the end. But absolutely, knitting needles are a good one to use as well. So they could also help when you're doing the stuffing. So we get a small part of stuffing, or if you are using scraps of fabric or socks or anything to do that, get the smallest part that you can to start with. And you want to get that stuffing the whole way up to the ears first of all. So you go into your hole and do a little bit at the time and push it all the way up to the ears. So the furthest away part, up those ears. And that's where you might find that you need something to help you get into those small spaces. So up into the top of the ears, and then after you've got in the ears, you can fill out the face a bit more. And then go to these arms. So try and get into these little arms. And I'm just putting a little bit of sprinkling of lavender and a little bit of rose into the stuffing as I go. Not too much, just a bit. It smells lovely. And I go to the arms. So into the arms. So this one. And then to the other arm there. So they're the hardest to get to points. And then you fill out the face and fill out the tummy, last of all the legs. And then we'll look at what to do with our hole at the bottom, or on the side, or in the head, or wherever you've left your hole. So have fun getting your stuffing in. So now we've got our lovely little kitter all stuffed and ready to play. Just the last thing is getting this hole stitched up. So if you're quite keen to keep using your sewing machine, change it to quite a sensitive colour to your piece. So I'll use a creamy whitey colour and just use a really small zigzag. I'll tuck in as much as I can so there's no raw edges showing. And just go in there on nice small zigzag. I'm doing this now for quick and ease, but what I would suggest, really, the ultimate thing to do is a hand stitch along the bottom, as invisible as you can. Really nice small stitches, just gives it a perfect finish. But just so that I can quickly finish this to show you, I'm going to make a small zigzag, small as I can, along the bottom. And I don't think it's the nicest way to finish it. I do think the best way to do it is to hand stitch up. So that you don't see it. But for now, to finish off, there we are, all done. So think of a nice name and yes, and then you are finished with your cat creature. And from here you can really think of other shapes that you could do. So if you wanted to add a tail, you could add a tail onto the back here. And yeah, so, and there are lots of shapes that you could choose to do. I will do some more, and I'll do a bit more complex creatures as well, but this is quite a good one for starter in making toys and creatures and things. So I hope you've enjoyed, and yes, please, I would love to hear any questions or comments, or if you've made, I'd love to see yours if you've made one. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next make.